All right, sounds
Okay, we
good.
should be live now. Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel, and if you can please let us know if you can hear us. That would be great. Um, and yeah, so if you can actually hear us, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jesus, and this week I'm doing a live stream with my really good friend Ben, the movie buff. And could you please just introduce yourself, Ben?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Ben Herkash. I have a YouTube channel called Ben the Movie Buff, and that's kind of become my YouTube name, if you will. So, yeah, I love movies. They're my passion. I also love the Oscars, and I've been waiting day after day to finally be able to get to this live stream where we can talk in depth about the 2021 Oscars. So, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I just got a
No worries, man.
confirmation that yeah, we can they can hear us.
Amazing.
So yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us, and yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Oscars. Um, but before we actually begin, I would like to let everyone know that if you have any questions or if you just want to tell us your opinions on whatever we're talking about, feel free to do so. And yeah, as you can see, you can definitely see the chat on screen as well. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would rather not start talking about the Oscars just yet, in case there's more people coming in a few minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, is there anything else you'd like to talk to us about, Ben? I know that I don't know if it was like a year or no, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. You became a member of the Directors Guild. So I don't know if you would like to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I've been working in film professionally for almost 9 years now. So for about 8.5 years, I moved to Ottawa specifically to work in film. And when I first moved to Ottawa, there weren't that many productions. It was kind of quiet at first, but I liked that I only had to be 45, 50 minutes away from my family. Um, so I could be close to them, but also still kind of work in film and see what I could do and learn as much as I could. And after a while, I started working as an assistant director, and I started kind of working my way up the ranks in that department. And it got to a point where one of my bosses had mentioned if I was part of the Directors Guild of Canada, if I was unionized. Of course, I told him no because like I'd heard it before, but I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But he said you should join for a number of reasons, and eventually I decided that it was time to do just that. So I did join the guild. A bit of a hefty fee to join the guild, given everything that they're doing for you. But the good thing is that they definitely take care of you, and um, with the kind of insurance plans that you get for health insurance of being part of the union, it's been super helpful in the last year. There have been a number of things that I have needed that would have cost way more money if I wasn't unionized. But even like my wife, for example, needed to get her eyes tested and then had to get new frames for her glasses. And she paid very little because I'm part of the union and I get to have my family as part of that. So it's been super helpful. And yeah, like I'm glad that I joined, and it's going to be really helpful as I continue to work on more films and save towards my retirement and amongst other things. But yeah, it is pretty cool to be part of the DGC. So yeah, I'm quite proud of it.
Actually, we just got a some of my the viewers are saying hi,
Oh,
but and even my parents are watching us.
oh,
Uh,
hello.
but yeah, so my one of my friends, he is from Peru. He's watching us.
Yep.
He's got a bit of an obscene name on YouTube.
Mm,
I don't know if you can see it, but he moved to Canada. I don't know how much time, like how long ago, but
Mm-hmm.
he's living in Montreal and he wants to study film. He's such a creative guy, and he's asking us if you could tell him a few of the requirements to join the Directors Guild of Canada, because he already got his citizenship and everything, so he wants to study film and eventually direct his own stuff. So yeah, could you
Oh
just
yeah.
tell him just some of the requirements for that? I know that you have to have certain amount of hours of work, but yeah, other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, so thank you for your question. And let's see. There are two primary ways to get in. I'll tell you the way I got in, but that there's also another way too. So when I started working on film productions in Ottawa, what happens is that most of the productions that you work on are working in conjunction with the DGC, which basically means that you tell the union that you're making this said movie, and there are certain things that will be a bit different if you are working with the DGC. So basically, in my case, because I worked on so many DGC shows, even though they were low budget shows, those basically counted towards my hours to join the union. So if I remember correctly, I think it's something like you have to work on, my wife's going to bed, so I'm just saying goodnight to her. They basically say that you have to work at least 150 days over at least three different productions to join the union, and those are on shows that have to be sanctioned by the DGC. Now, luckily, the shows I was working on um, were all sanctioned by the DGC, so you basically have to provide either call sheets or pay stubs to show that you've worked on these movies. So I kind of already had the thing I needed to join the union because of the work that I was doing. But let's say, for example, someone wants to join the union and they haven't been working on many DGC shows, or maybe they've only worked like 15, 20 days, but they decide that they want to work on the union. They're like, I don't know how much time it's going to take to work an extra 130 days. Like I'd kind of lucked out from working on these DGC shows for like 3 or 4 years before I joined the union. So let's
Yes.
say you don't have that many days under your belt. You haven't worked on any DGC shows and you want to join the union. What you would do is I believe it's the GAP program, the Guild Apprentice program, is something that you can basically apply for. And if you get into it, you will basically have like a year of training where they will find you shows to work on, and they will also kind of give you training programs where you kind of go into a room with a whole bunch of other people. I'm assuming they do it differently now thanks to COVID, but in normal times, I went into a room with like 20 other people, and they basically walk you through like what every single day looks like. How do you start your day? Walkie etiquette, set etiquette, all sorts of things that you should know, so that when you're joining the union, you're not someone that's like, oh, I've had 2 days on set, now I'm part of the union. It's like I still have no idea how things work, but like I'm keen, right? Because they do want people who join the union to obviously have a pretty good idea of how film sets work.
Yes.
So, long story made short, if you're already working on DGC shows, you're already racking up those days. That's one way to get in. That's the way I got in. But if you don't have that, you can apply to the GAP program, the Guild Apprentice program. I think that's on the DGC website, because I know a lot of people that also do it that way too. And then once you finish the GAP program, you are then a part of the union.
Well, thank you for your very thorough answer, Ben.
Yeah, no worries.
And I just think it's really, really interesting that there's this other program, the GAP program.
Yes.
Because yeah, when I was still in college, a guy that I think I think I didn't go to school that day, but I know that one day a guy from the guild was gonna talk to everyone about that, like how to be a part of it. And
Oh, cool.
I think I didn't go to class that day, but yeah, that was even so like informative for me too.
Hmm.
And we got quite another
I saw.
question. If you wanna, my friend Danny from Cinestellar, that's
Hi,
his
Danny.
channel. He says, "Is
Mhm.
there any short films or something that Ben has directed that I can go watch to get to know some of his work?" Before you tell us about that, Ben, I just like
Mhm.
to mention that I left Ben's channel, YouTube channel, where he talks about movies and he reviews movies. He
Mhm.
does top tens. I left it on the description, so if you wanna go check it out. Please go subscribe. I think that'd be
Yes, thank
pretty
you.
good. But yeah, so that's your question. If there's a way to like see some of the work you've done like independently.
Yes, so the stuff that I have done on my own time, if you look up my name, Ben Hercash on YouTube, I believe like I have my YouTube channel where I talk about movies, but then I have a channel that's just my name and I think an old picture of me from high school doing this. And if you go to that channel, um, there are some of my older films that I've done. So you can check out some of them there. Some of them are in like two parts because they were half-hour video, and at the time I didn't know how to um, upload a longer video to YouTube. So there's some short films there, and I think there are also some more recent ones on. If you type in VBR, two of my best friends, Vince and Riley, and then of course my name begins with a B, so that's where VBR comes from. We've collaborated in the last couple of years and made some short films, so you can also see some of my stuff there as well. And of course, like you'll see my name should appear on the channel, so VBR and Ben Herkesh, and then you'll be able to see some of my stuff.
Well, thank you, Ben, for that. I'm actually
No
gonna
worries.
uh, do something real quick with the layout. I'm gonna write
Cool.
down your. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna write down your YouTube username. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, if you wanna go through any other questions while I do that, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Um,
cool. I see it popping up. That's awesome.
okay. So yeah. So uh, yeah, I see. Timmy asks which movie do you guys wish got more attention at the Oscars? So you can answer that while I do while I fix the layout a little bit.
Yeah, so let's see. I think a lot of the movies that got nominated this year, um, I think I watched a lot of them in the last couple months, not this, and not in the past year. And I think off the top of my head, I mean, Soul, which was my favorite movie of 2020, already won two Oscars, so I feel like it already got some attention, so I guess I can't pick that one. But one that I would actually pick a little bit of attention, but it didn't win anything. So I guess this is why I would pick this movie. But News of the World is a movie that came out last year, directed by Paul Greengrass, the guy who did the second and third Bourne movies, and Tom Hanks. Like we all know Tom Hanks. They collaborated on this movie called News of the World, which is about this guy in, I guess, like the late 1800s, and he goes from town to town and he reads the news to people. I didn't know this was a thing, but I actually think it's so cool. So this guy reads the news because I guess a lot of people would have been illiterate at that time. So he reads the news and he kind of shares all these stories with people. And along the way, he finds this girl who's just basically abandoned. The person that was escorting her was killed. So Tom Hanks finds himself trying to get this girl home. And of course, there's language barriers and they don't get along quite well. But you can probably have a pretty decent idea of how the story develops. And I had a pretty good idea of how it was going to develop. But nonetheless, like it still blew me away with how beautiful the film looked, how intense the film was, even though it doesn't have that much action, how the film for about 2 hours long definitely feels kind of slow. It has a slow pace. There are rarely any points in the movie where you feel like we're going at maximum speed, but I was always engaged with what was going on. Like it still got me. I still felt so invested. And by the time the film ended, I just was supremely impressed with what I saw. So they did some really great things, despite the fact that the story maybe was kind of familiar. And that is a film that got four Oscar nominations. So for cinematography, for sound, for music, and for production design, I believe, but didn't win anything. So I didn't think it was going to win anything, but I would have loved actually if it got a little more attention, if it maybe got more nominations, or if it got an extra, if it actually won an Oscar. Because yeah, I was actually pretty floored by it. This was the typical movie where I was like, I expect I will like this movie, and I ended up loving the movie. So off the top of my head, I would pick News of the World.
Well, I gotta be honest. I have not watched it, but you really sold it to me. I gotta
Thank you.
check it out.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's see. We got any more questions? Um. So Timmy says, "Who's Tom Hanks?"
Who's Tom Hanks? So Timmy, Tom Hanks is an American actor. who started his career, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s. And as time went on, he started getting better gigs. You may have heard of him from movies like Big or Saving Private Ryan or Toy Story. I know you've seen Toy Story because I grew up with you in the same household. So hopefully I've jogged your memory here. But yeah, Tom Hanks is just an all-around really, really cool guy. A really cool guy. And if you're not reminded, if you're still trying to figure out who he is, just look up his name online and you'll see a picture of him and you'll go, "Oh yeah, that guy."
Okay, well, I hope that Timmy knows now who he is. He really
Yes.
looks like a cool guy, and I'd like to first I'd like to say that thank you so much for all the 9 viewers that we got. That's
Yes, thank you.
pretty
This is
cool.
awesome.
My friend, which he's actually watching us right now. We usually get around 10 viewers whenever we do live streams, but he's got almost 1,000 subscribers. So that's really cool
Oh
that
wow.
that we
Yeah.
that we got 10 and or well around 10 viewers right now, and yeah. Okay, so I think we can probably start talking about the Oscars now with
Let's do
Kuspit's question. That's my best friend.
it.
And his question is,
Crispin.
which one was your favorite movie out of all the nominees for best picture at the Oscars?
Okay, so I also have to admit that out of the Best Picture nominees, I saw all of them except Judas and the Black Messiah. I have been wanting to see it. I was going to go try and see it in theaters, but then another lockdown happened, so that unfortunately messed my plans with that. But I have seen all the other Best Picture nominees, and I would say Promising Young Woman was the one that actually floored me even more so than News of the World. I think Promising Young Woman was just one of those movies that, see, it's kind of cool because my thought was there have been movies before where a woman has been wronged or she's been sexually assaulted, for example, like in Revenge that came out a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
or and there are other movies too that unfortunately kind of deal with this very distressing topic. And then the woman, of course, is like, well, you know what? I'm going to go and kill every single one of my of the wrongdoers, of the criminals that perpetrated or that did this crime. But what was really amazing about Promising Young Woman is that the Carey Mulligan's character is someone who she wasn't the one that was technically wronged. It's something else that happened to one of her friends, and for her, she feels like she has to basically serve justice and go and try and scare all these guys and talk some sense into them. So there is very little violence in the movie, but a lot of it has to do with all of these confrontations. So it's a really great way to explore an idea like that. It's definitely something that I think is pretty timely and will obviously have, you can't watch a movie like that and finish it and go like, oh, whatever, and then move on. Like you want to talk about it with people. Um, but I thought, yeah, it was tremendously well acted, beautifully written, as evidenced by Emerald Fennell's win in the Best Original Screenwriting category, which was absolutely deserved. Um, but yeah, I think it was one of those movies that if you were to change a few things, it would become a bigger and more violent movie. But I think the way that they did it was actually a very clever way that really put a lot of spotlight on the performances and also on the writing. And the writing's great. And like like a lot of good movies out there, there are so many good juicy twists and turns where you get lulled into the way something is, and you're like, okay, well, I accept this. And then the story is actually like, oh, but wait, you don't know this part of the story. Things have changed. It's turned on its side. What do you think now? And then you're like, oh my goodness. And if anything, it turns the story on its side, and you are just on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next. So lots of great surprises, lots of great twists, and a movie that when it finished, I just had to talk about it with my wife immediately, who also loved the movie, and it was just something that like a movie that really stayed with us, and we kept on talking about it weeks after it was over. And as I think there's a really great quote out there, I think it's by Werner Herzog or maybe someone else who said that the experience of watching a movie doesn't start when the movie starts, it starts when the movie ends, when you've seen the whole movie and you can actually properly talk about it. And yeah, Promising Young Woman was absolutely fantastic and absolutely worth seeing if you have not seen it yet.
I really gotta admit that I didn't expect it to win the best original screenplay category at all. I thought it was gonna go to Aaron Sorkin.
Mm,
But it was definitely something unexpected, and it definitely the movie has definitely some really interesting ideas and topics, and definitely what you said at the end of your answer, that the movie doesn't end at the end of a movie; it just is starting. That's true, and I know that this movie um, had a lot of people, quite a few people, more than I expected, really loved this movie, which is great.
mhm.
And I would like to tie in like something, sort of my answer to this question, with a question that we got a while ago, and it is which movie do we think that should have gotten more attention from the Oscars? And I think that
Mm.
I didn't love this movie, but I think it's got a lot of artistic merit, especially the cinematography, and it is never, rarely, sometimes, always. I don't know if you
Oh yes, I've
watched
heard of
it.
it.
I just really love
I haven't.
movies that are shot in 16 millimeter film. Uh,
Mm,
I really like that look, and I didn't love that movie, but I think that I would have liked to see more people, you know, maybe more a little bit more recognition, because even though it's not my cup of tea, that movie, I think
mhm,
definitely the cinematography was stunning in my opinion, and also
mhm.
the main actress was really good. I don't know her name. I think it's her first role on TV, on
Sydney
movies.
Flanagan, I think is her name.
Yeah, well, she was pretty good in my opinion. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more, more love towards that, some aspects of this
Mhm.
movie. Um,
Yeah.
I gotta admit also that there's one scene in particular that made me cringe really hard, but other than that, I think it was a pretty good movie. Let's
Hmm.
see. Caitlin asks if we made any
Hi,
predictions
Caitlin.
for the Oscars, and if they were accurate at all. And yeah, I'll let yourself, Ben, answer the question first.
Thank you. Yes, I did. Every year, it is part of my routine and prep towards the Oscars to make predictions. I have so much fun trying to get them right, and even when I don't, like, I'm always invested. It's not something that I'm kind of like casual about. I really get into it. So I did make a prediction in every single category, even though some of the like live action short and documentary short, I hadn't seen any of those. I did make predictions for all the other categories, and I think at the end of the night, I got 17 out of 23 right. But
Oh
I think the
boy.
important thing for me is like I always try. Um, I've had a very on and off record with getting Best Picture right because of the preferential voting that they do for that category.
Hmm.
So I've gotten it wrong for like over 3 or 4 years. But then last year for Parasite, I did predict that it would win Best Picture, so I was thrilled that it did. And then this year, I had a sneaking suspicion. I thought like I think it can go to Nomadland, and it did. So I was very glad that I got that one right. But yeah, I got six wrong.
So what do you think about Nomadland? I think that's a good segue into discussing this pretty good movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was pretty good. I don't think it was my favorite of the Oscar movies. I think what's cool about a movie like Nomadland, I guess winning Best Picture, but also just as a movie in general, is that it seems to me there are I know this is putting it simply, but just for sake of explanation here, it seems to me that if you could break movies down into two categories. I'd say the one category is movies that are very plot focused, right? That have a clear story, and every scene the story is changing. There's some sort of development that's going on. So I think like a lot of mainstream movies that we watch are pretty plot focused. Then I would say that there are movies that still have plots, that still have story beats and all that, but focus a little less on having something important happening every scene and having more about the experience of what it might be like to walk in the shoes of that character. So Nomadland I found very interesting, because yes, there are still story beats, there are still things that happen, and of course, like Fern, the main character, still has to deal with different kinds of conflict, both internal and external. But there are a number of scenes where she's just kind of walking around and kind of enjoying the scenery, talking with other people. I think there's one scene where she's practicing on like a flute or an instrument in her van, in her cargo van. There are little things like that that I feel like, kind of give you an idea of the experience of what it might be like to be a nomad. So even though the film, and I think for me, I guess I am one of those story people where I am typically looking for a really good, strong story, something that hooks me in. I don't know if Nomadland had that exactly, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it was really cool that there were many scenes, just to kind of give you an idea of this is what it's like. It might not push the story forward, but this is what it's like to be a nomad. And I think that is cool sometimes to, I guess, kind of broaden your horizons and watch movies that might not be as focused on story and more about the atmosphere, the experience of what it might be like to do a certain thing. Because am I going to drop everything I have and become a nomad? Probably not. So watching a movie like that kind of gave me a pretty interesting idea of what that might be like if you were to do something like that.
Yeah, I think it's in its own way kind of a really immersive movie because of
Hmm.
the whole yeah, like there's not much of a story really. It's just like following Fern throughout this movie. And I also think that there's maybe some more deeper um, uh, kind of I don't know how to explain it. I think that if you try to analyze Fern a little bit more, you can get a little bit more about the story.
Hmm.
But the first time that I watched this movie, I didn't know what to think about it because I could definitely tell that it was good, but I didn't really love it that much.
Hmm.
And I watched it with my girlfriend Caitlin, and she didn't like it at all. Well, she did, but she was kind of like the way she gets with thrillers. She gets scared, or she doesn't really enjoy it that much. But
Hmm.
she just really wanted to see what happened, and not much happened. I mean, at the beginning, middle, and end
Hmm.
of a movie, Fern is the exact same character, except that
Yeah, that's true.
sometimes she gets kind of tempted to um, maybe not be a uh, sorry, I got distracted. Maybe at some point she considers not being a nomad for a few different reasons, and uh sorry, I'm just looking at the chat over here. But
I know
yeah,
it's
I
tempting.
mean, she's the same character throughout the whole movie, and I mean, she gets kind of challenged with like her whole lifestyle when she talks to like her family, or when she stays at, for example, at I think what was his name, Dave's son's house. But yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a pretty good movie. And I really love that he got so much love from the Academy, and
Hmm.
that they didn't give
Me
the
too.
Oscar to Mank, for example. Uh,
Yeah.
which I mean I enjoyed the movie, but I don't think it was that good. What are your thoughts on that movie, Ben?
Uh, on Mank, yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely not Fincher's best. I was super excited about it because I had to study Citizen Kane in film school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I have Citizen Kane on Blu-ray, right? So hearing that David Fincher, one of my favorite directors, is going to do a story about the writer of Citizen Kane, it's like, yeah, count me in, right? And especially the fact that they're shooting it like an old school Hollywood movie from the 40s. Um, but I do think it is one of those movies where it is technically, from a technical standpoint, from a craftsmanship standpoint, it's awesome. It looks
Yes.
great. It sounds great. There are so many things to commend it on in regard to those aspects. But I do, and I can be honest in saying that, oh, maybe this has more to do with like my expectations. But I think like the movie only kind of partly deals with actually writing Citizen Kane, with actually talking about Citizen Kane and involving Orson Welles. A lot of that has to deal with some other stuff that I didn't find that interesting.
Yeah.
And as I've said, I'm one that like I love when a movie has a great story and great characters and something that I just get so wrapped in that like I'm on the edge of my seat and it's like nothing else in my life matters except what's on the screen. And for something like Mank, I did not find myself all that invested with the characters. Gary Oldman is awesome. Amanda Seyfried is awesome. Charles Dance is awesome. And they give good performances. But when it came to their characters, I just found myself yeah, and like I guess if I were being asked to like kind of tell this story, I would have probably had it a little less about the other things that are going on that don't involve the writing of Citizen Kane and make it a bit more about Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a kind of a creative decision to by David Fincher to have a bit more going on besides just the thing that everyone expects, which is writing Citizen Kane. But yeah, for me, it's like by the time the movie was over, I thought like pretty good. Not Fincher's best, but technically awesome. And it makes sense because it won for production design and cinematography. So,
Yeah.
which I guess is not a huge surprise. So yeah, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I think it was fine too, but when you compare it to Fincher's previous movies, it really,
Mhm.
it's not one of his best at all, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there's actually two, like, I don't mind that much the lack of focus on more important things than
Hmm.
what the movie was actually showing us. But
Yep.
I have two things that bugged me so much of this movie,
Hmm.
and they are that I mean, I liked the cinematography, but I didn't like that it was shot in digital, and it
Okay.
got so many filters to make it look like it was actual film. And in my
Hmm.
opinion, when you have such a huge budget and you want to have like the old look, I would have preferred like them actually shooting it on film like they did with the Lighthouse in
That's a
2019.
fair point. Yep.
Because I don't know, it just threw me off that you see those. I think they're called like cigarette burns on the screen, uh,
Right. Yeah.
and that just really bugged me because
The real change.
yeah, it kind of, I don't know. And on top of that, I didn't like the sound design because I don't know what kind of microphones like they used, if they used old microphones, which I really doubt. But
Hmm.
I noticed that they try to like emulate again old school sounding
Yep.
microphones, and
Hmm.
I think that Mad Men does a better job, probably because they use microphones from like a few years, in like 20 years after when they were actually set this movie, like in the 40s.
Okay.
Um, and
Hmm.
yeah, I just think it sounded. I don't know. It's just a personal preference, I guess, but I really didn't like that
Hmm.
it sounded that old. And on top of that, that it was probably shot digitally, and then it just got
Okay.
like so much compression and whatnot to make it sound
Hmm.
like they shot it in the 40s. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, that's I think that's what actually got me to not enjoy this movie as much as I could have, but it definitely wasn't a great movie. I actually
Yeah.
kind of had to
Absolutely.
take a few breaks because I got bored. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, I see that people were asking us a little while ago if Oscars
Hmm.
were too white. And I don't know. I would not like to talk about politics that much on this live stream.
Hmm.
But there's one thing that I like to talk about, and it's got to do with the Oscars, but not the like not the Oscars that just happened. And it
Hmm.
is the topic of inclusion. And I mean, I'm all for inclusion. I'm not white. I'm Mexican, as everyone here
Hmm.
knows. But I just find it interesting, like the guidelines that they want to implement to get a movie to be uh, eligible to be nominated for the Oscars. I don't know. I just I think that it should be kind of really not 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 enforced, but strongly suggested in my opinion, but because like
Mhm.
I just don't like. I wouldn't like to know that, for example, if I worked in a movie, I wouldn't like to know that I was probably hired because they needed a more diverse crew. So yeah, that's kind of what sort of bugs me a little bit. I don't know. It just
Mhm.
makes me feel like people are just gonna do this as sort of just something that you get a like just something that you have to do in order to be able to be eligible to be nominated for the Oscars. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have any thoughts about that or not. I just wanted to let that out.
Yeah, no, no, that's a very good point. Yeah, I would say I read something really interesting. I think this is a couple of years ago, where, of course, yeah, it's like the whole topic of Oscars so white and all that. And someone actually made a really great point that has stuck with me to this day. And I think this will be something that probably continues to be fairly prevalent for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that while someone said, like, oh, the Oscars aren't nominating more films that support diversity, and a lot of the people nominated are white people and whatnot, that someone said, I think you actually have to look at the bigger picture, right? Because if you look at the Oscars and you say, oh, the problems with the Oscars, maybe I think that's a fair point, and I wouldn't be surprised if that has kind of been a thing that's been going on. But you also got to look at all the movies that are being made, right? It seems like there's still a lot of people, and this is one of the things that I was thinking about when I was trying to figure out if Nomadland was going to win or not. But I was thinking about like the best picture winners of the last 30 years, and every single time I would get to like a movie, I'd be like, okay, let's see. Silence of the Lambs stars a white girl and a white guy. And then we get to Unforgiven stars a white guy. 1993, Liam Neeson stars a white guy. And then you just kind of see how like a lot of the movies that are made just tend to have white people.
Yeah.
And they say that like if we want more diversity at the Oscars, we also need more diversity in the films that are being made. And I'd like to think that we are slowly getting there. I'd like to think we are seeing some progress being made there. But I have also heard sometimes how um, certain movies like might be based on stories that involve people of diversity, and then the producers making them think, well, are white people going to want to see a movie that don't star white people? Let's just for simplicity's sake just make a movie and just change the people to white people
Yeah.
so that way more white people will want to see it. So yeah, are there some problems with the Oscars being too white? Probably, but I think there's also a problem with the film industry, especially in North America and in the States, being too white.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, and I think I think that the thing that you said about how we're slowly getting there, I think
Hmm.
it's really important because uh, all of this happened without actually having some guidelines for the productions that you make. Um, and I know that my friends that are watching this are probably not gonna agree with me, but I really like the
Hmm.
movie Moonlight. I really think that it
Hmm.
deserved it, and they hate this movie. But yeah, I just think that, for example, just having that movie being nominated and actually winning was such a good thing for diversity.
Hmm.
But I think that's just a little bit too much about politics and stuff. So let's
Yeah.
go back at the actual movie talk.
Yeah.
We got a comment from my one of my friends, and he says that Minari is a movie about vibes that never fully completes itself. And I did not watch that movie, so
I've seen it.
if you have anything to say to that, please do, Ben.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. It's definitely about vibes. It's definitely about Minari, I would say even more so than Nomadland has more conflict. I think has a bit more focus on story. But yes, there are plenty of scenes of gardening and the kids playing and little things happening. And yeah, I found myself definitely connecting more to a movie like Minari, which once again acted beautifully, shot beautifully. The music, I find it's so difficult to have good music in movies just because the more music you listen to, you hear things that, oh, this sounds like an intense theme that I've heard in 500 other movies that I've seen before.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
Minari sounded so beautiful. It had some really great music that I actually can't wait to listen to again. And the fact that it never fully completes itself, yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. I'd like to think it's the kind of movie that still, I guess, sets up the beginning stages of this family moving to, is it Arkansas, I think, to a certain U.S. state, and that I'd like to think that even though we don't get the typical finality that we might see in a lot of mainstream movies where it's like, oh, they set out to do this thing, they did that thing, everything's going to be okay, like all the threads are tied up at the end. I like to think that there's still this sense of all the conflict that they've dealt with, like we're rooting for them, that like they're going to be okay, they're going to make it. And that yeah, I don't mind sometimes when movies kind of end that way, to still give you enough of a closure, even if it's not complete closure, but it's the sense that you can still kind of have a pretty decent idea of where the movie is going to be headed. And I mean, we don't know for sure. I think that's where kind of audience participation comes into play, to try and think and imagine about how, like, where does Minari continue after the actual movie is done. But yeah, I think that's an interesting creative decision, to not give you the typical finality that a viewer would expect in a movie, and say, who knows what happens after this? But with everything we've shown you, because Gates, yeah, I agree, it does kind of end a little suddenly. The one shot that it ends on, I was thinking like, oh, this is a nice scene, and then it just cuts to black, and then it's like directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and I was like, wait, it's done? It's like, no, I wanted it to keep going for another half hour. But yeah, I definitely, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, well, I would like to know what you were talking about, but like I said, I didn't watch it. But I mean, I got the point, and I still want to watch it. But yeah, you mentioned that it was sort of like Nomadland in some aspects, and
Hmm.
I wanted to go back to that because oh wait, no, you mentioned it because also because of wait, you mentioned it, and then you talked about the music of Minari,
Yeah.
and that's one of my issues with Nomadland. I didn't like
Hmm.
the. Sometimes I thought that the music that they used was pretty good. It was kind of more like ambient music, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But
Yes,
then,
absolutely.
then they had some scenes in which there was something sad, maybe.
Okay.
Oh, no, we're back. Okay, I think I don't know.
Okay,
I
great.
got a notification, and but yeah.
Oh shoot.
Um, I think we are still live. Sorry if we are still live and I'm just worrying about nothing. Okay, so yeah, we're still good. But yeah,
Amazing.
I didn't like that at some really more emotional scenes in Nomadland. They used kind of generic sounding, sad sounding piano tracks, and that's a
Hmm.
thing that not didn't let me enjoy the movie that much. And it's not a big issue because, in my opinion, most of the time, the the music was done just fine. But yeah, there were some scenes that definitely kind of threw me off because I just felt that someone was, I mean, the director and editor and screenwriter just really wanted to make you feel sad at that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I think it was a pretty good movie, and I also think that the directing of the movie was great in my opinion.
Hmm.
But before we stop talking about Nomadland, to talk a little bit more about the Oscars and the ceremony itself and things like Glenn Close. I
Yeah.
would like to just say that I really loved the cinematography of Nomadland. I just really loved it,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's pretty much all the things I gotta say about this movie. Um,
Hmm.
Another viewer says, I don't know, but Shakespeare in Love is the worst Oscar winner. What do you think about that, Ben?
Saving Private Ryan should have won.
Oh,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I've seen Shakespeare in Love. I think it's a fine movie,
mm,
but there is absolutely no way that it is better than Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite movies ever, and there's actually an interesting video that I was watching about basically a lot of fairly sound theories as to why Shakespeare in Love. One,
Mm-hmm.
because it was produced by Miramax, Harvey Weinstein was involved, and apparently they had a very aggressive campaign, which I guess helped kind of have people, um, thinking about Shakespeare in Love. And like Shakespeare in Love also came out during the typical Oscar window, like towards the end of the year, whereas Saving Private Ryan, I believe, was like a summer release.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they were trying to say like, oh, Saving Private Ryan, oh, that depressing, violent war film.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shakespeare in Love is a fine movie and all, but it absolutely did not deserve to win. Yeah, if I have to put a vote on like the biggest Oscar upset of like a movie that deserved to beat another movie, I would say Saving Private Ryan absolutely deserved to beat um, Shakespeare in Love. But at least on the bright side, go to the IMDb Top 250 and look up Saving Private Ryan, and it's ranked fairly high on the list. And then look up Shakespeare in Love, and it won't be there.
Yeah. And on top of that, I know that there's like, if you ask someone if they've watched Shakespeare in Love, they are not gonna be so likely to say that they did. But everyone has watched Saving Private Ryan. There's another comment that says Moonlight deserves the Oscar, but giving the prize to Green Book later uh, looked kind of like they were going for something more political.
Mm.
What do you think about that? I sort of agree because I didn't like that movie that much, and I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a little bit cartoonish at some in some scenes. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I like Green Book. I thought it was good, but I was definitely I kind of liked Roma a little bit more, and I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of hoping for Roma
Yeah,
to win. It didn't because it was a Netflix movie.
yeah,
I mean that's just my thought. I'm guessing that a lot of the Oscar voters are still kind of a
older.
little yeah, and like reluctant to give an online movie like Netflix the Best Picture title. That's just my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, see, it's interesting because I think with the preferential voting ballot, and just quickly, if you guys haven't heard of this, I think for the last 10 years, a lot of the Oscar categories are just, you pick the winner, or sorry, you pick the movie you think that should win, and whether it's by a little bit or a lot, the movie that wins in that category is the one that gets the prize. But with Best Picture, it always seems to be sometimes it surprises us with what movie actually wins because of the preferential voting ballot, right? So let's say, for example, in 2018, that I have a voting ballot where I say Roma should be number one, but then Green Book should be number two. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say that or no, sorry. Anyways, I guess to explain it in fairly simple terms, instead of picking a winner, you have to rank
Yeah,
all the movies, right? So you watch all the movies and you have to rank all the movies. And then the winner needs to have 50% of the vote,
yeah,
right? So because of that, that changes a lot of the mechanics as to what movie ends up winning. So basically, um, potentially a movie that has more, um, I guess you could say, let's see that one's where a movie that has lots of second and third rankings could potentially beat a movie that has fewer number one rankings.
yeah,
Just because of the fact that, yeah, like if I have a ballot where, let's say my number one pick has the least amount of number one votes,
yeah,
that movie is like I don't know if disqualified is the right word, but like it can't possibly win. So then you say like let's say if I picked like I don't know Bohemian Rhapsody is my number one, and they're like oh no Bohemian Rhapsody didn't have enough votes. Okay, well what's the second place winner? Green Book. Then it's like okay, so now that becomes
yeah,
that gets more number one spots. And I mean there are videos that explain it better than I do. But I think Green Book could have been a movie that maybe didn't have the most number one spots, but if it had a lot of twos and threes,
yeah,
that could have potentially helped it win. And yes, I think a lot of the times, a lot of these movies are fairly political. I would even argue Nomadland might be the least political win, but movies like Moonlight, Spotlight,
oh yeah,
the Shape of Water, like you can definitely tell, like they want to make a statement, they want to make a message with the movie that wins Best Picture.
yeah,
Same thing with Green Book.
yeah. I can't agree with you any more than what I already do.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it wasn't a bad movie or anything like that, but yeah, the new system and the new way that they do the voting. Uh, I forget what year it was, but yeah, it was not too long ago, like you said, and yeah, I don't know. I wanted to mention this before, and yeah, sometimes I don't know. It's not really about the movie, but about how good marketing you got.
Yeah,
Like I for
campaigning. Yeah.
or sometimes the Oscars are not too like the Academy still has members that are too uh I don't want to say old, but they have some older thought, I don't know, way of thinking. And you can see
Mm-hmm.
that in so many other examples. And when we were talking about that earlier, I wanted to mention also that, for example, what 1 year Taxi Driver didn't win, and the Oscar went to another movie that I forgot what it was, but
Yeah, so did Taxi Driver came out in 1976, so that would have been the year that Rocky won.
yeah, I love Rocky, but I think that Taxi Driver deserved it. And
Interesting.
I've actually tried to get Caitlin to watch it, and for some reason she just doesn't want to. And I love that movie so much, but yeah, I think that Taxi Driver deserved the movie more than, I mean, the Oscar more than Rocky.
Interesting.
And talking about that too, I don't know if you heard, but a few weeks ago they said that Sylvester Stallone wanted to develop a prequel show about Rocky. I don't know what they would show us, because I think that the movie was like the best moment in Rocky's
Yeah.
fictional life to actually start
Hmm.
showing us his story. I don't know what are they gonna show us before that. Uh, but yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's go back to see some more comments.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you
hmm.
for the questions, guys. These are awesome. I love answering these and talking about these.
Well, also, whenever you think it's getting too late, just let me know and we can wrap up. But I mean, I can go
Oh yeah, no worries.
as long as you guys want, and as long as you guys are still here, I'm down to
Mm-hmm.
keep talking about movies, and as long as we get questions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm missing a few
I think
questions.
Timmy asked a question
Oh,
earlier on
yeah,
asking
go.
about how we felt about the whole situation of Anthony Hopkins beating out Chadwick
Oh,
Boseman
yeah.
for the Oscar.
Okay, so I usually let you answer first, but I'll
No,
start
you
now
go.
for
You
a
go.
for a bit of a
Yeah,
change.
please. Mm-hmm.
What do I think? I think that that the Academy thought that Chadwick Boseman was gonna win, and that's probably
Mm-hmm.
why they switched the order of the Oscars, like
Mm-hmm.
the best movie.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I mean, I don't think that was a very smart choice, because I thought also that he might be winning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Me too.
the fact that they say that they don't know in advance the winners, I think they should have
Mm-hmm.
been smarter about that. I mean, they spent so many millions of dollars producing this show every year, and
Mm-hmm.
even if it's like, if they're super sure that he's gonna win, they should have still like not done that. I just didn't think that was like a very smart thing to do if they didn't know for sure
Mm-hmm.
that he was gonna win. But I think that Anthony Hopkins is probably one of the best actors that ever lived, and
Yep.
I think he deserved it in my opinion. It's really really sad that they couldn't honor Chadwick, but at the same time, I feel like they could have given well, not him, but they could have dedicated sort of like a trajectory honorary Oscar if they really wanted to
Oh,
do something to honor him this
that's
year.
true. Mm-hmm.
And if he actually won and then he got an honorary award, I think that would have been a lot better than getting another big mistake like when Moonlight won. But
Yep.
yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Ben?
So, yeah, when it comes to the way they tried to set up that moment to have like end with the big reveal of like, oh, Chadwick Boseman wins, his widow goes up and accepts the Oscar. Here's kind of a crazy thought. I wonder if when they were talking about this idea, that they thought to themselves, they're like, okay, one of two things happens here. The first is that Chadwick wins, like we are hoping and expecting he will,
Yeah.
and then we get to end with that great moment because when I saw the Best Picture was being announced like third last, not at the end of the show,
Mm-hmm.
like I was in shock because I was like, this is so weird. Why are they doing this? And it actually took me a while before I realized why exactly they were doing it. So I wonder if like when they were talking about it, they're like, okay, he wins, we get the great ending that we want, or he doesn't win, and if he doesn't win, the show ends on a shock like it did with the whole Moonlight La La Land kerfuffle. Although to be fair, that was not planned. That was an accident, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did hear someone mentioning that they're like, oh, like some people think that like, oh, any news, even bad news, is still good news, and they still thought that it was bad news. But I can't help but wonder if maybe they did kind of have that up their sleeve to still get people talking
Yeah.
about something like that, because someone actually brought up a good point where they said the ending to the 2021 Oscars was so strange because it was the Best Actor Oscar was won by a guy who was not there, and he beat a person that was not living anymore.
Oh boy.
Like, how strange is that, right?
Yeah.
Like when are we ever going to get an Oscar ceremony where that happens again? So that was really strange. Now, thankfully, Anthony Hopkins, he didn't think he was going to win, so he did record a little message where he did thank the Academy and honor Chadwick Boseman the following morning. So I think that was really good. I mean, I would have loved to see something like that in the actual Oscar
Mm-hmm.
telecast, but oh well. And then when it comes to how I feel about, yeah, Anthony Hopkins winning over Chadwick Boseman, having seen both films, I do think Chadwick Boseman, I did think he was going to win. I think he was the best thing about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. But Anthony Hopkins also gave a really great performance too. And I agree. Like, who could forget him as Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs? Who could forget him in a lot of the other great performances that he's given in his lifetime? And I think I did a bit of research because I was really curious about it, and I was trying to figure out like, oh, what could have given Anthony Hopkins the edge? For one, I think that Anthony Hopkins, for like, he's already won an Oscar and he was nominated many times before he won an Oscar again for
Yeah.
The Father. So I think he probably just has a better recognition amongst Academy voters compared to Chadwick Boseman. I like to think Chadwick Boseman like is still a star. A lot of people know about him, but I think it's more about the younger people, the people that have seen 42 and that have seen the other movies that he's in, and especially seeing him as Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So I wonder if maybe that kind of helped Anthony Hopkins. The other interesting thing that someone brought up is that um, the majority of the actors in the last 10 years that have won Best Actor won for a movie that was nominated for Best Picture. So I actually went back to see what was the last movie that won Best Actor but was not nominated for Best Picture, and it was Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges winning the Best Leading Actor Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, Jeff Bridges at that time was also still very established, nominated for a lot of Oscars. So it's actually interesting, and again, it kind of makes me wonder, did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom not being nominated for Best Picture, did that hurt its chances for Chadwick Boseman winning? Who knows? I was just looking at the statistics. I was just looking at which movies have won for Best Leading Actor that had a Best Picture nomination, and then which movies won where it didn't have a Best Picture nomination. And in more cases, you will find that the actor winning wins for a movie where Best Picture was nominated for that same film. So it's kind of unfortunate. I was kind of shocked. I would have loved to see Chadwick win an Oscar, especially because Anthony Hopkins has already won an Oscar. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show, just because you've won an Oscar once, like you can still win an Oscar again. We've seen plenty of people that have won multiple Oscars. Just because they've won once doesn't mean that now they have a significantly less chance,
Yeah.
as we saw with Anthony Hopkins and also with Frances McDormand, who now has won 4 Oscars, 3 of them for Best Actress in a Leading Role. So
Yeah.
you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that. And yeah, it's kind of yeah, like I don't know how, like, there's this sort of statistics, I guess, of and like these aspects in which they kind of help you to win an Oscar,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
if you have some requirements, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe that just speaks about like how some of the voters vote, I guess.
Yeah.
And I just realized that you guys were talking about first about Whiplash, being better
Yeah.
than Birdman. And I gotta admit that when I first watched Birdman, that was like my favorite movie of all time for like, I don't know, probably like a year and a half. But then I kind of looked more into the director's filmography, and I
Mhm.
saw some interviews, and I started liking Birdman a lot less. And then I watched The Revenant, and it was really well shot, but I didn't like that movie that much. And I don't know, I just felt like I don't know, I just stopped liking it that much. But I've never stopped uh, enjoying and also just really really liking Whiplash. So I guess I gotta agree with that too. I like Whiplash more now, like
Mhm.
a lot more.
Yeah.
And then okay, what else have they? Oh yeah, and then they were talking about how much time I spend in the washroom. Um, in the chat, and it is true. I spend a lot of time in the washroom. Um, let's see what else. What else? What else? Why do you think Whiplash is a better movie than Birdman?
Oh, geez. So I think Birdman, as interesting as it is, as beautifully shot as it is, and I know I say that about a lot of the movies I see because I'm a sucker for good cinematography. I think Whiplash is a movie that definitely pushes itself more than I guess your average mainstream movie. Because when you think about it, like there are actually a fair amount of movies about a person who wants to not just be good at what they do, whether it be a form of art or whatever, but like they want to be the best.
Yeah,
So Whiplash, I think definitely a lot of people can relate to Whiplash, myself as well. But yeah, I think what's great about Whiplash is that as I think yeah, maybe what I find more what I find better about Whiplash is that Birdman has a lot of for uh $30 million movie or whatever, it has a fair amount of spectacle because of
yeah,
the fact that there are no cuts, right? Because of the fact that there are still like all these really cool scenes that like it does have great cinematography, but I think Whiplash has a really incredible story and also great characters too. Like Fletcher is just like one of the most memorable characters I find that like you will come across in a movie because of how he teaches people and
yeah,
especially his mentality of there are no two words more harmful in the English language than good job.
yeah,
And it's like, man, even that, like those two words actually, like there could be such a great discussion about that. But I would
yeah,
also say that as good as Birdman is, I think the ending to Whiplash is one of the best endings. The last 10 minutes of that movie are one of the best endings I've ever seen in a movie. And the moment the movie ended, I just felt so like alive. I just felt like I'd seen something that had affected me so greatly that, and I normally don't do this, but I just rewinded to the last 10 minutes of Whiplash
yeah.
and played it again just to watch it because, yeah, that scene is so incredibly constructed. And I love, without giving too much away, I love how Miles Teller's character is actually put in a situation. I think Fletcher was actually smart enough to realize this, that whatever Miles Teller character did with that situation, with the kind of difficult situation that Fletcher put him in, Fletcher was going to win regardless of what he did in that situation. So I think Whiplash is such a great character study, has really great music, and I think has so many great moments that um, have less to do with spectacle and more. And I mean, I guess to be fair, the last scene has is pretty spectacular, but that there's so many incredible things that happen in Whiplash that deal with practicing of music and these mind games and deception and whatnot. There's so many great things that happen that just have you on the edge of your seat. Whereas Birdman is good, but Whiplash definitely got me on the edge of my seat more often.
I just saw that Caitlin says also that she's an early childhood educator, and she says that she learned about how bad good job is for younger kids too. And I just asked
Interesting.
her if she can tell us a little bit more about that. But yeah, well, and in the meantime, while she writes her answer,
Hmm.
um, and I would like to mention that even though the big one of the bigger selling points of Birdman was how it was shot and obviously how it was
Yeah.
directed. I really, really,
Mhm.
really loved the cinematography of Whiplash too.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love how, I must admit I still can't get over the fact of how cool images and shots look when you have very very shallow depth of field, and they had some
Yep.
really really beautiful close-ups. Um,
Hmm.
Even when it was just like something flat, like not like an object in front of the camera, but like even something just flat on a slight angle, like the sheet music for some of
Yep.
the players, you could see that because it was on an angle, the focus was so shallow that sometimes you could see it like just being focused on a line or a bar, I guess.
Mhm.
And sorry, and sorry, I Caitlin came out and I can hear that she's watching the stream. But yeah,
Oh, so you're hearing
yeah.
your
So
voice.
it was
Yeah.
so shallow that you could see like everything out of focus, and then they pull the focus a different direction, and then the another different bar or the title or whatever is the only thing in focus now, and whatever was in focus before that is completely uh, out of focus. And I don't know. I just really like them. I just really love the framing, especially in the last scene, because I think it could have been really, really boring.
Hmm.
Uh, just recording, like Miles Taylor drumming a song. But the way it was
Yep.
directed and shot, it just makes you feel so much emotion. Like every single close up, every single shot, it's so beautiful. And yeah, I just really wanted to say that even though the big selling point of Birdman was the cinematography, I also think that Whiplash had some amazing cinematography too.
Hmm. Absolutely. And if I can quickly say, my favorite shot of Whiplash
Yep.
is the shot where I guess like Andrew Miles's character, I guess has like a pitcher full of ice, and it's very
Yeah.
blue and kind of translucent and whatnot, and he puts his fist
Yeah.
in down like this, and then it just turns completely red. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's one of those shots that it's quick, but it says so much about his character. It's like, you know, he
Yeah.
could lose his hands and he'll still find a way to draw 'em. Like that's how
Yeah.
committed he is. So it's like, wow.
Yeah, and not always, but a lot of times you see you see yourself or people close to you having not necessarily uh not necessarily treating uh their passion as a passion anymore, but more of like an obsession. And I
Oh
really
yeah.
like that aspect of that movie. Um, let's see what else people have said. Um, Sinestelar said, I agree 100% with you, Ben, and I think that Whiplash has more of an emotional resonance. So, fancy words.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. I mean, I think Birdman has a pretty, like, some pretty interesting,
Hmm.
social, critic, I guess you could call it that. But,
Yeah.
like, criticizing franchises and criticizing, you know, how age really affects someone's career.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that Whiplash is overall a better movie, and I mean, I'm not surprised that I wasn't nominated. I mean, that it didn't win because
Hmm.
it was just such a small movie compared to all the other ones. Um,
Yeah.
and then Caitlin said about the good word, good job, thing, that it's actually not complimenting what the child is doing. It's just filler words. Hmm.
Hmm. It's like
Interesting.
it's a very easy go-to response that we've
Yeah.
all used in our lifetime. But yeah, I think that's she makes a good point about actually getting into a little more detail about specifically what you did right, and that's actually an opportunity for them to learn. So yeah, I have
Yeah.
to use that on Dexter tomorrow.
Caitlin says you should explain what it is good about what they did. Oh, yeah, she's finishing her thing that yeah you should
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
explain what like yeah what part was good about what they did. Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. It's when you really think about it, it just feels like you don't want to, I don't know, you just don't want to hurt someone's feelings, and you're like, yeah, sure,
Mhm.
that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess this is a good moment because there's not a lot going on in the chat. I think it's a good moment to talk about how strange these Oscars were. And
Yep.
I really love bringing up the example of Glenn Close just twerking, I guess.
Yep.
Um, I know that it was staged. I read it somewhere afterwards that it was
Oh, of
staged.
course. Yep.
Like everything is staged. Like even Ellen's selfie was planned. It wasn't planned to
Oh,
be
of
as
course.
big as it was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. This ceremony was just so strange from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you just tell us a little bit about your initial thoughts of the ceremony?
Yeah, so I think right off the bat, I think the strangest thing was is kind of addressing the elephant in the room is that because, like I've been watching the Oscars, I think every year since the year that Return of the King won, because when I saw Return of the King, I was like, oh, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
like I had to see whether it won any Oscars, and it won all of the ones it got nominated for, so that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every year you get to the Oscars, you get to this gigantic room that has hundreds, if not thousands, of seats,
Yeah.
and everyone's sitting in those seats, right? So for it to look as small and intimate as it did, and I did hear, and this makes a lot of sense, that however small it looked, they actually had some people, like certain nominees would be in the first third or first half or whatever for movies that they were being nominated for. And then once those awards were given, if they didn't need to be there anymore,
Yeah.
they would basically leave so that other people that their nominations were about to come up would take their place. So that way, even though it only looked like there was, I would guess, about like 80 to 100 people in the room, there were more, but they would basically just kind of go in and out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was strange because it definitely, for a number of different reasons, looked different than the
Yeah.
Oscars. Especially like I found like the way it was shot, like it even seemed like some of the cameras sometimes looked more cinematic. Like I find like a lot of the cameras that they've used in the past are live TV cameras. Like that's what they look like. This year, surprisingly enough, a lot of the times I found that the cameras we're using looked more like the kind of camera you'd use to shoot a film, to shoot a movie.
Yeah.
So there was that, and I think yeah, just the way that they, we saw people wearing masks. We saw that they would leave the Oscar on a little stand, so that when the winners were announced, instead of someone handing off like the three or four Oscars,
Yeah.
it would literally be one, and one person would go up, and the other people who won would stand back. So like with all these safety protocols, yeah, I mean, I'm so glad we got to have the Oscars and that we
Yeah.
got to watch them and see exactly how different they looked. But yeah, like it was strange for the safety protocols at the beginning, and then it got strange towards the end when they rushed the in memoriam, which I thought was really disrespectful, and also
Yeah.
when Best Picture was not the last thing to be announced. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty strange.
Yeah, and what you said about how it looked like they used different cameras. Yeah, it kind of
Hmm.
threw me. I kind of liked it, but it kind of threw me off that, for example, I think they used some sort of diffusion filter on the lenses.
Hmm.
Because I could see that the highlights, like lamps or light sources, sometimes they kind of
Yeah,
look like they were
yeah,
blooming. I don't know if you noticed that too, but I kind of
a little
liked
bit,
it.
yeah.
But I don't know. I just they looked strange. They felt strange, and um, my friend Danny is saying that he felt that the ceremony was so fast, but they still felt pretty boring. And yeah, I thought they felt super fast at the beginning, and
Yeah,
but then at the end, like it still lasted 3.5 hours, or really close
yeah.
to 3.5 hours. And yeah, but I just
Hmm.
thought it was strange how they, in my opinion, they did feel pretty fast. They were giving out so many Oscars without a break or without a sketch or a little
Yeah.
monologue or something like that.
Hmm.
And also talking about the safety protocols, I like that a lot of stuff was pre-recorded. Like I believe
Yeah.
um, the people that were nominated for best original song, I think they all pre-recorded it. I think,
Yes. Yeah.
which in my opinion was really good because
I agree. Yeah.
people singing, as I don't know if you watched Hamilton, but yeah,
Hmm.
people singing, they just spit so much, and
Oh yeah.
sometimes you can't really tell. But yeah, yeah, people singers usually spit a lot, and that would have been not sanitary.
Nope.
And then my friend Kusped said, "Do you guys think that a movie will ever win only like as many Oscars as Return of the King again?" I don't think so. I think it would have happened already. Um,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You want to
oh
keep on
no, no,
going?
no! You go first. I'm trying to think.
Oh, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Just I was thinking about this as well because this got brought up in another post-Oscars video that I was watching, and yeah, I would be hopeful that maybe something like this does happen again. Look, because here's the thing, you look back, the last movie that won a fair amount of Oscars, including Best Picture, I would say was Slumdog Millionaire in 2009, where it won 8 Oscars, including Best Picture.
Yeah,
But since then, I think the only movie that kind of came close was like Hurt Locker, I think won 6 Oscars. La La Land didn't win Best Picture. We thought it did for a second, but
yeah,
it only won 6 Oscars as well, not including Best Picture. So yeah, I think because of the preferential voting ballot, and I agree with this person who brought this up, that I think it's going to be a bit harder for movies again to be winning 9 or 10 Oscars or maybe even 11.
yeah,
But I'd like to believe it is possible. I just don't think it's going to happen for a while. Because when you look at all the movies, basically from The Artist in 2011, and yeah, and even The King's Speech in 2010, all those movies I don't think won any more than 5 Oscars. Like we're getting on average like Nomadland won three, Parasite won four, Argo won three, Green Book won three, Moonlight
yeah,
won three. So yeah, I think it's quite possible that most of the movies that will continue to win Best Picture will win 3 or 4, maybe 5 Oscars.
yeah,
But I'd love to believe there is a movie maybe down in the next 10 or 20 years that will win 8 or more Oscars. But yeah, I think it's just I think yeah, it's going to happen way less often because the Best Picture winner could go to a movie that only has won a few other Oscars.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's like I'd love to see it happen again, just because I think it's so awesome when a movie kind of just cleans up shop like sweeps
yeah.
like that. And but yeah, I think it's going to be a while before we see another one of them.
Yeah, I also I honestly don't know if it's gonna happen again. Like you mentioned, since they changed the preferential vote,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like maybe I mean I don't know. I'm just making things up, but maybe I think that maybe voters and members of the academy, they probably wanna like encourage having more recognition to other movies. Like before this preferential voting was a thing, they used to only nominate 5 movies, right?
Yep.
And now you get from anywhere from like 8 to 10, which
Hmm.
is great because I think that if it was only 5 movies nominated, for example, just this year, uh, for example, I don't know if like movies like Promising Young Woman or other movies that are not
Hmm.
the typical Oscar bait type of
Yep.
movie. I don't know if they would get enough recognition. So
Yep.
yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be another movie coming anytime soon that is gonna win like 10, 12 Oscars like
Hmm.
they used to.
Yep.
Um, uh, Before we go on with that, I just remembered that there was another question that I wanted to talk about, and it
Okay.
is, what are your thoughts on the best documentary category?
Oh
From
yes, that's right.
my friend Kuspet, he asks that. And I definitely have my opinions, but you can go first, man.
Yeah, I'll go first because my answer is really short. In past years, I normally watch at least one or two of the documentaries. This year, oddly enough, I didn't get around to any of them because the last couple of weeks, like I was telling Jesus before this live stream began, have been kind of weird.
Yeah,
So yeah, I did get to a lot of the Best Picture winners, or sorry, the Best Picture nominees and all that, but I haven't seen any of the documentaries. but I do want to see the mole agent. I do want to see my octopus teacher. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts, Jesus?
Oh well, I made a whole video about that, and
Yeah, you did. That's right.
I think that my octopus teacher, is a good documentary. My friends that are still watching it, this live stream, know that I think that, but they hate it, and especially because I think that the mole agent is a much better documentary, even though it's really interesting because it's shot like it was a movie. Like if someone told me, "Oh yeah, this is just a movie. It's fiction. It was written by someone, and it was not really old people living in a nursing home," I would have
Yeah.
believed them because while I can tell that it was a documentary and it's obviously known that it is a documentary, there's so many scenes that I know that if they are not completely staged, they are definitely partially staged. Or if
Hmm.
there's like a little detail, for example, there's a scene in which the mole agent, his name is Sergio, and in this scene he does something silly about like he's having some issues with um, technology, and I think he ends up doing something like I don't know, just something like he has to send voice messages to the private detective that hires him,
Hmm.
and he has to send voice messages with like a daily report, and he's trying to figure out if old people are getting like abused or just not treated right at the
Hmm.
nursing home, and he's trying to send them the first or um, one of the daily reports, and he pretty much just talks about oh well, today I talked to people and we went for a walk and we ate this and then we went for another walk, and that's what I did today.
Hmm.
And then right
Yep.
after that you cut to a shot of the private detective, and he's just like he just face palms, and like you know that that's definitely staged, because
Yeah.
there's no way that they would have had two crews at the same time at both
Hmm.
locations while this was happening. So it definitely had
Hmm.
a lot of stage moments, but in
Hmm.
my opinion, that's not that important because the story is really heartbreaking, and it's just a really good documentary, and it's really sad, but at the same time, it's got so much heart, and
Hmm.
it's so beautiful to watch, and you really feel empathy for all the older people. And going back, just to finish my answer, going back to the aspect of them staging
Hmm.
some moments, that happens all the time in like even wildlife documentaries, because you get
Yeah.
like a crew that um like even just like they have like a camera with a huge zoom telephoto lens,
Hmm.
and there's absolutely no way that they could have the microphone so close to the animals, so they have to do some ADR and
Of
just
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
in post production, so that it doesn't look like just like so there's sound, and you know I think that if they didn't do that, it wouldn't feel so real, but at the same time
Yeah.
they're doing something that's not real, or yeah, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's why it didn't bug me so much, because there's absolutely no way that they could have staged some of the more heartbreaking moments in the movie. I don't want to
Hmm.
spoil anything in case you want to watch it, because I think you said you
Hmm.
did. But
I
yeah,
do.
there's
Yeah.
so many super emotional moments, and there's actually one moment in the trailer, so I'm gonna talk about that one. And there's this old
Okay.
lady, and she has dementia, and she's just scared, and she doesn't know where she is, and she gets progressively more scared, and then Sergio, the protagonist, is with her, and he's like, well, if you're sad, just cry, and that's gonna make you feel better. And it's just
Hmm.
so It sounds so such like a simple thing, but it's just
Yep.
so heartbreaking, and especially when you watch this not characters, these people over an hour and a half, you really get to like them. So yeah, I really
Hmm.
recommend that movie, and in my opinion, it should have won the
Awesome.
Oscar. And my
Yeah.
octopus teacher was a bit creepy at some points, some of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, uh, let's see. Um, there's not many more questions. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about, Ben?
About the Oscars?
Uh, Anything really?
Anything? Oh, what did I want to say? I'm glad that Soul won the two Oscars that it did. I'm glad that Promising Young Woman won one. Yeah, there. I guess one of the things um, that I like about the Oscars, I find, is that you know most years I tend to try and watch at least like 15 or 20 of the nominated films,
Mm-hmm.
so that way I am able, like, I've seen a lot of the winners, right? So
Mm-hmm.
most of the winners that get announced are from movies that I've seen. And yeah, I think that was actually kind of one of the things that, I mean, I like pretty much every year, but I definitely liked, especially about a strange year like this one, is that movies like, let's see, Tenet, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, Soul, Minari. I'm probably missing a few, but yeah, movies. Those are all movies that I really enjoyed, and the fact that they all got to have some Oscar love, I think is really great. So yeah, I think as strange as the show was, and that yeah, just to touch base on that comment earlier, that yes, the show felt like it was going pretty fast at first, and then and I think one of the viewers was mentioning it was kind of flat and boring. I think one of the reasons for that, and this is the tricky thing. Like, I always enjoy the Oscars, but I do find that they do, with each passing hour they get a little harder to watch, because I think, really. So I know for one thing that they did less of this year is that they showed less clips.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it was like, oh, Ben Herkash for this short film, like they would just like they have the camera on the person that got nominated instead of showing a clip.
Yeah.
And I actually think it showed how much we missed the clips and how much I think they should bring the clips back. Like, I think they showed a few clips for like the best supporting actor category and for best picture. Um, but yeah, it was kind of weird that for most of the categories they were just like doing medium shots of people's faces, and there's even one girl that my wife and I were laughing at because the camera came up to her and she was literally like just staring there. It's like, what are you doing? Get away from me. Look at someone else. It was kind of uncomfortable. So I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of weird. But to touch base on the whole, like, why I felt kind of flat and boring, if I had to guess, I think it's because the Oscars, for the most part, especially in a year like this where like we don't see the musical performances, which I didn't mind, but really the Oscars is one of two things happening. It's people announcing nominees and announcing the winners, and
Yeah.
then it's people giving speeches.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like they're actually, like, I liked Tyler Perry's speech, Yejin, and I'm probably butchering her name, but the older lady who won for Minari, her
Yep.
speech was awesome. There were a lot of speeches that I liked, but I can't help but wonder if, because I know in the past, like some of the lesser categories get like 45 seconds and then the conductor starts playing them
Yeah.
off. But I do wonder, like, especially in the bigger categories, like, should they be allowed to go on for 3 or 4 minutes? I'm sure it's tough when you win an Oscar and like you just want to say all these things and you want to give a moving, emotional, and memorable speech and such. But I don't know. I think if it were me, I would give a lot of the bigger categories 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and then after that it's like I'm playing you off and we are panning to something else. Like,
Yeah.
get it in 2 minutes, because I think after that, when you're talking for longer than, especially because like even the older woman from Minari, like her speech was good, but I felt like there were a number of speeches that were still like, wow, I just okay. So anyways, sorry, I gotta, there's like a lot of
Yeah.
scrambling. It's like, whether you think you're gonna win or not, like, have a speech on you
Yeah.
and hold it in your hand, and then when you get announced, go and have it out there and just start reading it. Or if like you have something memorized, I do think 3 or 4 minutes is a bit too much. I think,
Yeah.
and I mean, even like for best picture, yes, if a few people go up to talk. Oh, and for the record, Frances McDormand howling like a wolf, which was actually in honor of I believe the boom operator on
Yes.
Nomadland who passed
Yes.
away. So I thought that was really cool, and like, yeah, you go, Frances McDormand, but also like something that was very respectful for her to kind of to do that as a little shout out to him, I think was great. But yes, I think after a while, like when you think about it, there are 23 categories. So that's 23 speeches we have to watch over the course of 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And that's not the whole running time. That's only part of the running time. But I feel like that is majority of the time we are watching people like, I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you. That's great and all, but I feel like tighten it up. Please tighten it up.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I mean the Academy obviously notifies people that get nominated, and I feel
Mhm.
like it would be useful to have kind of like a guideline of like, please prepare have a little speech,
Yeah. Mhm.
because yeah, so many times there were some really moving speeches, but they were so long, and I think this is uh sorry, my cat's over here.
Meow meow, honey.
I mean, they were great, but at the same time, it really drags. And um, what's the other thing I wanted to say about this? Yeah, I mean, if you just cut slightly shorter, like if you, I think this will sound mean, but people are
Mhm.
not watching the Oscars because they want to see who won best short documentary, or or
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I mean,
Yeah.
if I was nominated for that and I won, I would obviously love it and cry and whatnot and wanna thank everyone. But when there's so many categories and everyone just has so much to say, it really drags. Even though there were not so many interruptions of like sketches and stuff like that.
Yes, that's
uh,
true.
yeah, I just think that they are still trying to figure out what's important and what's not, and they still haven't done a really good job at prioritizing stuff like that everyone loves. Like, just for example, we were just talking about it a little while ago, that people love the little clips that you show
Mhm.
of the nominees of the best movie, best actors, and it's just so iconic. And I just thought it was so odd that sometimes they would just go on and on about how socially important a movie
Yeah.
was, and they were
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
thank you so much for making this movie. And I'm like, well, if you liked it so much, why don't you just go back to showing clips, not just
Yeah.
not just tell
Talking
us.
about it.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, it's
know.
like the rule
It's
of film, show don't tell. And
Yeah,
they did a lot
yeah.
of telling.
They should try to learn a little bit about filmmaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were strange. And you mentioned also this girl that really didn't want to be like to be on screen at that time
Yeah.
and have like a camera close to her.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, like it's just awkward, like especially if you don't tell them in advance, and especially because this year I don't think people that were nominated really knew that they were gonna change, for example, the clips so much.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it's just strange.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I saw that Caitlin has a question for you.
Yes. And her question is, do I watch how often do I watch movies with Kayla? How often do I watch movies by myself? I think for me, it really depends on the movie. Now, one of the things that I really appreciate about Kayla is that she actually has been very open to watching, like we've watched silent films together, we've watched documentaries together. Um, but I do think she and I tend to watch horror movies the most often together because that is a genre that her and I both enjoy very much. Even though a lot of the horror movies we watch may not be really great,
Yeah,
but we love when we get to watch something like A Quiet Place together,
yeah,
um, or Don't Breathe is another good example. So yeah, I watch lots of movies with her, but then there are times where, for example, a kind of phase I'm in right now is I'm trying to watch the vast majority of movies in the IMDb top 250.
yeah.
So that's the Argentinian film The Secret in Their Eyes, which I watched recently and was awesome. I'm currently in the middle of watching Judgment at Nuremberg, which is an old 3-hour movie about these trials after World War II.
Yeah.
And there are a whole bunch of other like foreign films like Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker, which I'm sure you've probably heard of,
Yeah.
Jesus. I'm going to be watching that, My Father and My Son, which is from Turkey, Tangerines, which is from Russia,
Yeah.
Paris, Texas.
Yeah.
So movies like that, I don't know if Kayla would be too into them. So those are the kinds of movies that I would watch by myself, but I know Kayla is usually open to watching movies that are a little less mainstream. So it's a bit of a mix, but to be honest, I do actually there are some movies that I love watching with a crowd, and then there are some movies that I just like watching by myself.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes, as much as I love my friends, sometimes they can be a little too liberal with like asking questions and making a comment and like, how much do you think that airplane costs? And it's like, guys, sorry, I don't care. Let's just focus on the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a mix.
Yeah, and did you so you haven't watched Paris, Texas, Ben?
No, I haven't, but give me a
Oh
week or
boy.
so and I will watch it.
Oh boy, please let me know when you do, because it's
I
so
will.
good. I loved
Yeah.
it. And I think that's something that is better enjoyed if you watch on your own, even though I think that people wouldn't. I don't know, like for example, I think Caitlin would like it, but
Yeah.
I think the best way to watch it and so many other films is just by yourself, especially the first time you
Mhm.
watch them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's such a great movie, and I actually just put it like right after I watched it for the first time. I put it on my Letterboxd
Nice.
account, which I should probably put in the description. But yeah,
Hmm.
and yeah, the thing that you said about how you how Kayla watches some movies that are not maybe what she enjoys the most. I think that's
Hmm.
really cool, and actually that happened with me and Caitlin recently, because
Amazing.
she gets so emotional with movies, and we both cried with like cooking shows, for example, or baking shows. But I
Oh my
really
goodness.
I really wanted to watch Silence of the Lambs with her. I love that
Okay.
movie so much,
Yes.
and she
Great.
gets so scared with movies, even when they are just like thrillers and they're
Yeah.
not too scary or scary at all. But she's so emotional, and she watched it with me and she really liked it, and then she was like, you know what, I want to know what happens next. And we haven't watched the sequel, but we watched Red Dragon, which is a prequel that they shot after.
Right. Yeah.
And she really liked that one too. And right now we are
Nice.
watching the Hannibal TV show, and I'm so surprised because she gets so scared. And even right now, we both get scared because it's got some really gory scenes. The
That's what
Hannibal
I've
TV
heard.
show,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
she still is like, oh, I want to go home and watch an episode. And I'm like, that's
Yep.
so great, and that makes me so happy because she got out of her comfort zone and she watched this
Hmm.
and she gave it a shot and she liked it. So I think that's really cool. She also has made me watch some movies that I would have not watched on my own, like The
Nice.
Outsiders. I
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
She loves that movie, and I just never
Yep.
thought about watching that, and I watched it and I liked it.
Yeah, I gotta quickly say here that like on top, I think that's amazing that Caitlin watched Silence of the Lambs because yeah, once again bringing it back to Anthony Hopkins, what a memorable performance.
Hmm.
Yeah, if there's anything I've learned in uh, my passion for film, making films, watching films, working on films,
Yeah.
is that yeah, you should never limit yourself to just like a few genres and stay in your comfort zone. I would challenge anyone who loves movies, go out of your comfort zone, watch an experimental movie, watch a documentary, watch a silent film. I know that was a big thing when The Artist came out. Um, geez, 10 years ago now,
Yeah.
where I was telling people that I was like, oh, I saw The Artist. Is like, I thought it was pretty good. I think it's worth seeing. And so many times people were like, oh, the silent film. And I was like, I know silent films seem scary because there's no talking
Yeah.
and there's only music and they're old and they don't look as nice as some of our films now.
Yeah.
But there are some great silent films that absolutely deserve to be watched.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anything, I would challenge anyone, watch movies that you might normally not watch because you never know what gem, what cool thing you might find when you pick something that's kind of unexpected. And I
Yeah.
and I and I still continue to challenge myself, even especially with movies where someone's like, "Oh, I thought this movie was awesome," and I'm like, "Oh, I have not heard good things about it." But you know what? I still get surprised by some by some movies.
Yeah, me too. And talking about that, yeah, there's so many times that people just talk about like movies and they say that they're not great, and then you watch them and you're like, hey, what's going on? This is a pretty good movie.
Yeah,
And
it's very
sometimes for
subjective.
me, it's the other way around. Everyone says, "Oh, this is such a great movie," and I watch it and I'm like, "Oh boy, oh
I
boy."
was like, really? Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Um, like, um, I know that we're running we've been live for quite a while, but I get a question, and I know that it may take a little while to answer, like if you have too many opinions on it. But I just got one question that I gotta ask you
Okay.
tonight, and it is, what do you think about the Snyder Cut?
Oh, yeah. Geez, we could dedicate a whole podcast to this. So let's
uh,
see.
well, maybe just give me
If
some
if I
quick
said a couple of
thoughts,
minutes.
and we could talk about
Yeah,
it
no, no, I know.
later.
That's what I was gonna
Oh
say.
yeah.
Yeah, if I said that Oscar winners should only have 2 minutes to give their speech, I'm gonna see if I can keep this in 2 minutes.
Yep.
I think the Snyder Cut was amazing. Not a
Mm-hmm.
perfect movie, but I think an absolute improvement over the mediocre theatrical version that we got 4 years ago.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me a couple months ago what I thought of the theatrical version, it's one of those movies where I'd say, oh, it's fine, it was pretty entertaining, but is it a good movie? No, it's not. The Snyder Cut, I think, really improved upon a lot of things. I didn't mind its length. I didn't mind its multiple Return of the King style endings where it just kind of kept on going, even though it probably could have wrapped up 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
I just felt that the wonder and the spectacle, getting to see what Zack Snyder intended, I think all of that, like, it just made a lot more sense. It felt like everything kind of came together a lot more nicely. And the highlights of like the things that we got to see this time around that we didn't see in the theatrical version, getting to see more Cyborg
Yeah.
and getting to see kind of like some of the things that he does for other people. Um, I think that was amazing. And Flash's introduction, oh my goodness, was just so great.
Yeah.
There are some scenes in the Snyder Cut that are genuinely just fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I thought it was awesome. And to be honest, it'll be a movie that I'll probably be talking about on my channel at some point because it is so far in as one of my favorite movies that I've seen in the calendar year 2021. So yeah, I loved it. Not a perfect movie, but man, oh man, what a an improvement over the theatrical version.
Yeah,
Time.
and yeah, I think that we for sure should try to do a little podcast about just
That
discussing
would be
this
fun.
movie.
Yeah.
I actually already made a video about it, and
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you
um,
did. Yeah.
there's just so many things that you like that you can discuss about this movie. So if you ever want to
Hmm.
do that and sort of like do this podcast and just kind of refresh your mind for whenever you make a video for your channel, if you want to make a
Hmm.
video about it, yeah, that'd be great. I'd be down to do that.
Me
I'd
too, man. Me too.
probably have to watch it again though, uh just to have things fresh in my mind.
Yep.
And yeah, I've seen some new comments. And yeah, we should probably wrap this up soon. I
Cool.
know Caitlin's getting sleepy, and I got a shower.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me just read some more comments. But before I do that, I just want to say that I think it's a much immensely better movie. But
Yeah.
there's like two things from the script that really made me question, is this a good movie at all? I
Mhm.
really enjoyed watching it, especially because of the experience. Like I was
Yeah.
watching it like throughout like 2 days because I had to um I just had to have some breaks. But yeah, like I really
Mhm.
really enjoyed it, and I think it added to my good experience that two of my best friends, Marco and Danny, they both watched it like as soon as it came out,
Mhm.
and I just really wanted to finish it, but I had to have breaks in between because it's so long.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's so much better than the original cut, and
Yep.
people say that it's just Sweden's cut, but I think that that YouTuber, YourMovieSucks.org, he put it really well when he said that it's not Whedon's cut; it's more like Warner Brothers cut. Um,
100%. Absolutely.
um, yeah, so that's all I'd like to say now, because we can definitely talk an hour, 2 hours about this movie. But yeah,
Mhm.
let's go back to the questions, and
Yeah, I
then we
believe there's a question
can
for me.
wrap up. What? Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, just as
Oh,
Cinestellar asked me if I've seen the Wrong Turn films, and he says
yes.
they're
Yeah.
his
Yes. I
biggest
was gonna.
guilty pleasure. Yeah, sorry for jumping the gun. It's just because I saw it
Oh
and I was like,
no.
"Ooh, I have an answer for this."
No, I,
So,
I I was actually gonna tell you. I had that question in mind. And I was like, we can't leave this
mhm.
live stream without addressing it. So yeah, just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I absolutely wanted to bring it up. So I saw the first Wrong Turn film I think about 5 years ago. I watched it on Halloween evening because for me, even if I can go out and trick or treat, which I think I will do more often as my son gets older, I love watching horror films in October and especially in Halloween Eve, or sorry, the night of Halloween. So I watched the first Wrong Turn movie. I thought it was fine. I thought like there's definitely a fair share of violence, but like there was definitely enough to kind of keep me interested in it. Definitely reminded me a bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre because of the cannibals and the disfigured looking family. Although I think Wrong Turn definitely kind of exaggerates that a bit more. But yeah, I think the first one was fine and fairly enjoyable for what it was. As for the rest of the Wrong Turn movies, I haven't seen them, but if you guys have heard of a YouTube channel on a YouTube channel called Dead Meat, Dead Meat actually did like kill counts for all of the Wrong Turn movies. So I actually remember a fair amount from the later Wrong Turn movies, just because James A. Janisse covered them pretty extensively, right? Because he talks about the kills, but he also talks about behind the scenes stories and tidbits, and then he also kind of narrates the whole story. So, will I ever watch all the other Wrong Turn movies? Probably not. I mean, I may do it if I was joining someone for like some kind of fun marathon, like if someone else was more into it. But yeah, I probably won't watch the rest of them just because I feel like I already got a pretty decent summary from Dead Meat, and I think I already kind of saw some of the highlights, right? Like without giving too much away, there's a surprise kill that happens in, geez, is it the fourth or fifth Wrong Turn? It's the one that takes place in like the abandoned hospital building, I think, with like during winter, and someone's trying to get away on a skidoo. Um, there's kind of a surprise moment that happens there that I even watching just the clip, I was like, whoa, that was quite surprising. So yeah, I don't know if I have it in me to watch all the remaining Wrong Turn movies, but I did see the first one because my wife had it on DVD, and I wanted to check it out because I'd known Eliza Dushku from Dollhouse and a few other movies. So yeah, thank you for that question. Hopefully that was a satisfactory answer.
Just one moment, cause we got a question, and I don't know if you are watching the. I just gotta make this chat box a little bigger.
Okay.
Uh, oh, I can't do it. Anyways, um, we got a few more questions, and then we can just wrap up. And it's Carlos says, "Is Shrek funny in English?" Well, I haven't watched Shrek in English. But if it's such a huge cultural phenomenon across countries, I would say yes. You've definitely watched them in English, so I'll let you answer that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I guess Shrek is I've only watched it in English because that's yeah, I speak very little French, so English is my one and only language. Yeah, I think Shrek is hilarious in English. I remember seeing it in theaters when it first came out, and I thought it was funny. And as I got older and watched it again, I think I realized like there's a lot of innuendo and humor that you don't get as a kid that I thought was really funny. So yes, I think what sells Shrek is like I think the voice work is so good. And I imagine like obviously in different languages the voices will be dubbed, right? It'll be other voice cast that come in to do the voices. But Mike Myers putting on like the kind of Scottish accent that he does, Cameron Diaz playing the kind of at first very like I guess kind of having that pristine image of being Princess Fiona. Eddie Murphy, like, is such a talent, and unfortunately, he's just hasn't done a lot of great movies from what I can tell. But I think he's perfect as Donkey. And then John Lithgow as Lord Farquaad, like, what a great voice cast. So yes, I think Shrek in English is very very funny.
Yeah, I actually Caitlin just called me out on that, and I actually watched
Oh,
the first three Shrek movies in
oh,
English,
okay.
and yeah, but we're almost wrapping up,
The
so I
Shrek
just
binge.
wanna say that some things that you mentioned, like the Scottish accent,
Yeah.
I kinda don't get them that much.
Mm,
Uh, I mean, I do now, but like
yeah.
before, if like I watched like clips on English about Shrek when I was younger, and I wasn't so fluent in English, which
Hmm.
I wish I was a little bit better or had a better accent. But anyways, yeah, before I moved here and I actually watched these movies in English, it took me a very long time to realize that people really love Shrek's. Mike Myers' Scottish accent, and I
Yeah.
obviously had no clue because in Spanish there's no accent whatsoever.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just a
right. Yeah, that's a
voice.
good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess let me see if there's any more questions. Um, I don't know who. Oh, I don't know if you call the same character Pin Pawn in English, or I don't know. I don't even know if it exists, but it's a joke, and like there's so many jokes that just change so much.
Hmm.
Like when you translate them. So I don't know. But he said, my friend Carlos, he says Pin Pawn is better than the Muffin Man. I don't know who the Muffin Man is, but yeah, sure.
So who would
Um,
Pin Pon be in the Shrek movie? Like, is that
uh,
a
it's not a character. It's
oh, it's not a character. Oh, okay.
like when the little gingerbread boy, when he's being tortured, he like I forgot what question what they're asking him exactly at this point, but he's like Pin Pon, and then it's just like a silly joke. It's like a rhyme in Spanish, I think. Yeah,
Oh,
like a
okay.
nursing
Yeah.
rhyme or something, and he's like ping pong, and then he just says the nursery rhyme, or I don't know how you say it, but it's like he's like ping pong, and then the guy, and then Farquaad I think says, "Oh, what about him?" And then he just keeps saying the rhyme, and he's like, "Oh, he washes his little face," and then he's like, "He washes his little face," and then the gingerbread guy says, "Yeah, with water and soap," and that's the rhyme thingy. So I'm
Okay.
assuming that that's not or I don't know if that's what happens in English. I forgot, but yeah, that's I guess that's
Yeah, if I remember from in the English version, it's like Lord Farquaad's interrogating him and like willing to rip his limbs off because he's like, "Do you know the Muffin Man? The Muffin Man? The
oh,
Muffin Man?" Like, yeah, so they're doing that nursery rhyme
mm,
in the English version. So yeah, maybe the pin pon is just like the Spanish equivalent of that, or just like a different thing that means more to Spanish people,
yeah. I
I
guess it's
guess.
just like a sort of a similar thing guy, I guess, because yeah,
Yeah.
he Pin Pon is a doll made out of cardboard, and I don't know why he washes. I've always, since I was a kid, I was like, why does he wash his face with water and soap if he's gonna
Yeah.
like get like all like gooey? I don't like
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Actually, Caitlin says Shrek wouldn't be Shrek without his accent. I don't know about that.
I agree. I agree.
He sure is Shrek in Spanish without an accent. So, uh, oh, okay. Well, I'm just reading the comments, and yeah, Caitlin just said the rhyme, or I don't know how you call it, and
Yeah.
then my friend said it in Spanish. In Spanish.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what he was saying.
Oh, and
But
Caitlin says that she thinks Habon was ham, but no, it's soap. Yeah,
it's soap.
it's such a funny thing. I don't know. This has been one of my favorite parts of the live stream so far. But yeah, I think that's it for today.
Hmm.
Um,
Sounds good.
do you wanna do some more self promotion for your channel, Ben?
Absolutely. Yeah, so Ben the Movie Buff is my YouTube channel. I haven't done much with it in the last couple months, but I do have a bit of free time in the coming weeks. So yeah, I should try and pump out another video. But yeah, if you guys could subscribe, I would really appreciate that. I love having new subscribers on the channel. And if you want, feel free to comment on any or all of my videos if you have ideas for videos that you would like to see, and I'll do my best to make that happen. Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me. It was so much fun, and I think that
Absolutely.
the 2 hours that we've been talking about movies just went by so fast. So yeah, if you guys are still watching us, and if you haven't subscribed to Ben's channel yet, please do so. He knows so much about movies, and he's such a great guy.
Mhm.
And I hope that we make another podcast or live stream soon, maybe about the Snyder Cut. Uh,
We absolutely will.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan then. And
Yeah,
right after this ends, I'm gonna send you the Spanish version of that ping pong bit,
amazing.
so you can school yourself,
Yes,
educate yourself.
you got it.
So yeah, Caitlin says it was nice seeing and hearing you, Ben. It definitely
Yes,
was
likewise. Thank you so much,
really
Caitlin.
really nice to see you, Ben, and thank you again so much for collaborating. And yeah, uh, thank you everyone that has stuck with us for the past 2 hours, or if
Yes,
you
thank you.
just watched a half hour here and there, that's great too. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys